Welcome to Pfeffer on Power. I'm your host, Jeffrey Pfeffer, a professor at Stanford's Graduate School of Business and author of 16 books on a range of topics, including the topic of my oversubscribed MBA class and this podcast, Power. Every other week, I talk to someone about their path to power and provide you with practical guidance about how to accelerate your career. Today's guest is Luciana Doria Wilson, who is coming to you from Brazil, Sao Paulo, Brazil, where she lives with her husband, Peter Wilson, and her children. I met Luciana when she was a student in the online version of my Power course called, Leading with Power. And she has done some remarkable things, as we're going to describe soon, has a position of great influence in the Brazilian economy, has worked primarily in male-dominated fields, and nonetheless, as a Brazilian woman, has succeeded in being on a number of public company in Brazil boards and holding a variety of influential positions. So first of all, welcome to Pfeffer on Power, Luciana.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to join the podcast, and thank you for this opportunity so I can share a bit about what I learned during the classes. So as you just mentioned, I have worked in very male-dominated fields. I have worked in finance for more than 2 decades now. In my own industry, finance women are still a minority, especially upper ranks. Part of my success is down being in environments where I was allowed to excel. When I started my career, I was lucky to work with people that didn't discriminate because of young age, gender, or ancestry. And then there was a lot of hard work, commitment, dedication, and passion for execution. Before joining the financial market, I used to play volleyball. So I learned a lot about resilience, discipline, and I was very focused on execution. So my transition to boards was something that was very difficult because you have your nose in and the hands out. But I was lucky to implement what I learned with you. There is a very interesting story. When I became executive here in Brazil, I worked in a company that faced a very hard situation and had to fire the CEO and the CFO of the company. And it happened before I started to take the power session classes with you. And I started to think, why did that happen? And my conclusion is because they didn't understand the dynamics of power, but not only them, also myself. So I didn't want that to happen with my career. And it was crucial because I was going from execution to leadership role, and I needed something to guide my career. And it started there.
Yeah. So why don't you give us a brief, if you will, since not everybody listening to this podcast will know you as well as I do. Why don't you give us a brief overview, if you will, of a verbal resume? So where you went to college, where your first job was, etc. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the boards on which you sit today.
Yes. So I started my career working at Banco Santander in Brazil. I joined the investment banking team, and I have people from different work regions in the world. So the opportunity to report to people in Spain. And I have to navigate this process of different cultures. I was very lucky to be able to get access to CEOs and CFOs of big companies in Brazil because I was doing research reports helping with M&A transactions, and it was I was young, working with the best team in Brazil in M&A. I also had the opportunity to work as economist for Santander Treasure Desk. It was the largest on that time in Brazil in terms of trade volume, like the dollar was defined in that place. And I used to travel a lot internationally to Europe and also United States. So I met investors that were responsible for assets under management for Bill Gates, for example, sheikhs of oil companies, and many things. So it was an early introduction to people in leadership roles and making very important decisions about their wealth.
And what did you do after Santander?
And then after Santander, I went to HSBC. I continued to work with brokerage house and also investment banking, doing M&A. And there's when I got the chance to work with a company that would like to do their IPO. It was the first home building company in Brazil and largest. And they invited me to join the company because it was new. Nobody didn't know how to do the evaluation for the company. And the balance sheet is just estimative numbers. There is no real number in the balance sheet. So you have to be very careful with that. And I did that. And then we listed the company in the United States at NYSE, and it was very successful. So one of the largest IPOs here in Brazil. And then because of this opportunity, I was able to do the first largest billion-dollar transaction in the private equity segment for real estate. We sold a company called Alphaville Urbanism to Blackstone and Patriot. So I became very well known for a lot of private equity investors and all the investment community.
And my sense is that now you have what I would call kind of a portfolio career. And I think your company is called Managrow, and which you also work in with your husband, Peter, who, by the way, say hello to him. He's a wonderful person. I love him. Tell us what Managrow is, and also the boards on which you sit, and how this has all come together.
Yes, thank you, Jeff, for the question. So Managrow is a M&A boutique. It's part of an international network called Alliance of International Advisors. And it's kind of different from the other M&A teams that usually work on transactional deals. We only do transactions with customers that we know for a long time. We do buy and sell side mandates. And we also decided that in order to create equity for the business, it would be a great idea to start to invest in companies. So the first company that I invested is on the healthcare segment. It's called PBSF, Protecting Brains and Saving Future. They were looking to raise money for their business, and they invited me to join the board. So it was my first board experience. Then 2 years after, I was invited to join the boards of a company that's publicly traded in Brazil called EasyTech. They are the most profitable real estate developer in Brazil. And it was 7 years ago. Then after my first board at a public company, I received different invitations from several companies and different sectors. So today I'm sitting in the boards of Telefônica, telco company. The other company is Anima Educação, so in the business of education. The other company is Priner, and Mills. Both companies are in the service for industrial business. And I continue to be on EasyTech, and also I am a member of a leadership board at Stanford, Women Impact Network, and I'm also sitting in London in the board for the association of the M&A boutiques called Alliance of International Board Advisors. So it started with a recommendation for an investor, and then I started to work with other business, includes Grupo Fleury, which is the largest diagnosis laboratory in Brazil, Camil, which is in the food business, and then Enel Energy in the energy sector. So more than 10 companies now.
Wow. Sounds like you're keeping very busy. So, Luciana, we've talked about your background and how you've gotten on so many of these interesting boards and how you began your career in finance, which is, of course, not a place that has always been hospitable to women. And then along the way, you took my class, Building Power to Lead, in the online in the online lead program from Stanford. And I would be curious to hear you. You became a big fan of the class, and I'd be curious to hear how lessons from that class has influenced and accelerated your career. Some specific examples of what you learned and how you put that learning into practice.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. That's a good one. I when I started, first I'm very oriented to data, and everything you brought up to us was based on research. So that helps a lot for me to be able to put in practice. And then the practical, it's you are like a coach, so I was able to do the class and implement everything I was learning immediately. So the first thing was like learn how to read the room, understand more about the dynamics of power, get a clear picture of what everybody wants, what are the needs, how can you do like a map in your head and picture everyone that is in the leadership position and understand how can you help, what are the spots that no one is looking that I could learn and make a difference. So I did it all. I had like a agenda. So I need to speak with this person. This one can help me with this situation. I can learn with that person another thing. This is how can I support my boss. So I did it all immediately when I started to take the classes, the power classes with you. So it was very important because I was able to get results from these strategies.
So it sounds to me like what you just said. You did a lot of relationship building and networking, but you had done some of that before. So what was the difference after you took the class in terms of what did you do differently in terms of the networking that you had done prior to and then after the class?
Yeah, so one thing is that I'm more selective. The other thing is that the strategy behind my mind. So if I want to create impact, I what is it that I need? Who do I need to speak? So I was able to get access to very interesting people during my career, but I wasn't using those relationships to be able to do the things I thought were important or were aligned with my values. So that's how it changed. So completely different picture from what I was doing before. So I was able to help and get help, and this is something ongoing in my life. And also I was exposed to situations where I met interesting people. So for example, if I got invited for a conference, international one, it's very common for Brazilians to get together. Instead of doing this, I already know a lot of these people, so let me create an opportunity here to meet new one. And I was very lucky with this kind of connections that I did. outside Brazil. And those are people that continue to be on my relationship. So I do network a lot with these people. And there is a lot about getting out of your comfort zone. I think this is something I had to work to be able to do this process. It's something you choose. It's not something that happens.
So it sounds like one of the things that changed is you became much more strategic about how you spent your time
Yes.
and who you met.
Yes.
And I particularly like the example of going outside of Brazil and instead of hanging out with the Brazilians who you already knew, hanging out with people that you didn't know.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
see this all the time at Stanford, where, Stanford people will go, for instance, to the Sundance Film Festival, and they hang out with themselves. And I always ask them, why do you have to go to Utah to hang out with the people that you are surrounded with every day? If you go to Utah, you ought to meet new people. And it sounds like that's precisely what you did.
yes. And at the beginning, I was uncomfortable. Then I started to enjoy because you can meet so many people. It's so interesting people. So this is something that I actually enjoy to do.
Yeah.
But
And
I've
and
learned
what
that.
yeah,
Thanks
and
to
what
your
made it
advice.
uncomfortable was that you were more used to and obviously more at ease with dealing with people that you already knew and who were similar
Yeah.
to you.
And also in my career, because when you start at a bank, everything has the same ideas and mind. So when someone starts to speak about something, you know where they are going. Everything is predictable. And then by joining different people in different regions, you do not have that situation. So that's how you connect to people, and it makes us more smart, alive. There's a lot of things that happen, not just business. So I really like this strategy.
Yeah. And it also sounds to me like your business, your fundamental business of Managrow, is in fact a business in which you are basically serving as a broker, that you're bringing people and businesses together. And so, to the extent that you've engaged in networking, that helps you basically conduct your business.
Right, yes. Especially life science is something that we work a lot. And how we connect entrepreneurs from different countries. We know the strategy, we know what they need. So, what we do is to screen the market, search for entrepreneurs that are looking for opportunity to raise money, or they want to sell their business, or we have a we do buy side mandates and also sell side mandates. And it's something that we started at the network since the beginning, and the network is now in more than 40 different countries, and we travel to all these regions to choose a new partner. So it's very nice to do this. We need to have a proven network with track records, and it's something that is we have a board, and the decision of the membership is based on the votes for the board members, which I'm part also of this organization. And our headquarters is based in London, but we have offices in all those 40 different countries that I mentioned.
Well, so it sounds like you've made a lot of progress.
Yes, yes.
Well, yeah.
It's the
Congrats.
second
Well,
largest network of M&A.
congrats. And let me ask you one final question, which is, it strikes me that a lot of what you're doing, other organizations are also doing, particularly investment banks and business brokers. What do you believe is your competitive advantage?
Um, Most of the boutiques, they do only transactions, and the relationship with their customers are based on the deals. We work as a boutique, so we do not compete with banks because they are doing the largest transactions. And with the small ones, we are different because we know better the customers and investors and entrepreneurs. So it's the concept of the boutique. That's why it's very different from those that are only doing transactions and they don't care about long-term relationship that they are building between these entrepreneurs.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking as you were talking before, that one of the differences is that you are much more long-term focused, that's number one, but also you build a different kind of relationship with the companies than the transaction-oriented banks.
Yes, that's what we are doing here. So, for example, right now I'm working on a deal for a business based in London. We worked with them 7 years ago, and now they are back with a new mandate. So that's how it works. We never had to work with someone doing sales or prospecting new customers. It's all of them are recommended by the network we built.
Okay. Thank you. This has been an interesting conversation, and I very much appreciate your taking the time to do it.